Essentially, one of the huge issues that we have is globalization, and even in a post-economic crisis world, we need to understand with investment flows, with trade flows going all around the globe through global supply chains, we really need to have a way to effectively resolve those international commercial disputes. So my International Business Dispute Resolution course does that. That's the whole objective, is to make sure that people know where are the problems, how can I solve them, what are the different cost-benefit ratios for using different types of dispute resolution mechanisms. And although we tend to be focusing on arbitration, because arbitration is the baseline for resolving international commercial disputes, we also think about other options, whether it's litigation in different national courts, or mediation, or negotiation, because it's changing tremendously these days in terms of how we resolve those disputes, because people don't want to spend money, they want to look for value. And the class is designed to specifically look at that, and not just have students thinking about doctrine, but thinking about policy. Because 5 years ago, I taught this course in a very different way. The world is changing quite quickly, which means we need students that can't just know the doctrine today, they need to be able to adapt to the doctrine and the policy for tomorrow so that they can add value for their clients. But I also am always looking for opportunities to get creative. What does that mean? Well, one of the things that Washington & Lee has that's special is the third-year program. I want to use my class as an opportunity to give the second-year students training wheels, so that when they come into class, they don't just talk about doctrine and policy. We give them practical opportunities to implement the ideas that we're talking about in class. So for example, yesterday we did a drafting simulation where the parties were responsible for drafting arbitration agreements, or multi-tier clauses where they were negotiating and then going into arbitration. So they were incredibly surprised at actually how difficult it was, because the week before we talked about what's a valid and enforceable arbitration agreement. It's one thing to say this is what the law is. It's quite another to say let's do it. And so I wanted them to get their feet in the mud and muck around, and as I say, commit malpractice with impunity because there's no damages, and give them a chance to make mistakes and learn. I suppose one of the things that really gets me excited about teaching is watching the students evolve over the course of the semester. Seeing them go from, I don't know anything about arbitration, I'm not quite sure how international commercial contracting works, to I get the commercial realities, I now know a little bit about the doctrine, and I can begin to apply it. So that intellectual evolution of the students is really it's special. I'm always looking for that light bulb moment where I can see them go, aha. And I like to try and reinforce that, because I think irrespective of whether or not you're in a wonderful international law course at Washington & Lee or in some other class, it's about that intellectual evolution. And if we can provide an environment for that, I want to reinforce it. So I mean, that's just one of the joys that I have. Washington & Lee, in my view, is the biggest bang for your buck in international legal education. You get a small environment where you work with teachers in a very in-depth way, whether it's Mark Drumble, Christopher Bruner, Speedy Rice, Joanna Bond, you name it. We've got a very broad spectrum of people with international law background here at Washington & Lee that offer a variety of different courses and can provide a variety of experiences and contexts. But that's just at the doctrinal level. I mean, think about it at the practical level. I don't really know of many U.S. law schools that have the kind of opportunities that we have for our students for internships. I know that I've been able to organize internships for students that I know with the Organization for American States, with the United Nations in Switzerland. I know that other people have had similar opportunities in Cambodia and in Africa, but it goes even beyond that. Just to kind of give one example, about a year and a half ago we had a big conference here where we brought a mini United Nations to Lexington. I was able to organize a group of approximately 15 students. I call them 15 student liaisons, so that the students could begin to form relationships with the speakers and actually even some of the attendees. And they ended up with job offers out of that. I mean, that's incredibly unusual. One student went to go work with Sherman and Sterling in Paris. Another student was offered a job internship in South Africa, another in Thailand, and those were opportunities that came directly from the international law programming at Washington and Lee.